Today is Saturday, May 3rd, 2014, and I'm speaking with Mike Jarrett. This is an interview related to Gulf War illness. Alright, so first question I'm going to ask you, would you state your name, unit you served during the Gulf War, and what time frames?
Okay, my name is Mike Jarrett. My unit was the 703rd Provisional Watercraft Company with the 7th Transportation Group out of Fort Eustis. We deployed to Saudi Arabia, or I did. I deployed as a with a small rapid deployment force. We were on the 3rd plane to land in Dahra Air Base, and when I first got there, I worked for General Vagonas as an aide, so to speak. My job was whatever the general needed done, like a gopher, just get messages out and make sure that units coming in were supplied with everything they needed before we pre-positioned them out in the desert, make sure they had their full combat load, tents, latrines, showers, whatever they needed. That was part of my job. And my unit redeployed after it was all over with in August 1991. I myself came home a little early at the 1st of June for an emergency leave.
Now, during your combat deployment, do you recall any of the M8 chemical alarms going off?
Yes, especially around the first few days when the air war started, around the 17th, 18th, 19th of January. January, if I remember correctly, especially in that time period.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't remember the exact days, but I know it was like right after the air war started. We started hearing the alarms going off, especially when there were incoming scuds and all that stuff.
And so these got reported to. They did get reported to higher command.
As far as I know, I mean, I don't have that knowledge to be.
So whenever the alarms went off, what was the response back from it? Did they say it was a false alarm, or?
No, at first we took them very seriously. At first, I mean, the old NBC alarm, gas, everybody put on the gas mask, you donned your equipment and all that good stuff. And as time went on, I guess toward the end of the ground war, then at that point, there was less and less gas alarms. I mean, they just didn't really pay much attention. And I don't know if that came from a higher command or what, but,
So whenever the alarms started going off, and then they gave the all clear, did they give you guys any kind of indication as to why the alarms went off or anything like that?
No. The way it worked for us, I mean, the main company, the NBC, NCO, would monitor the alarms. And when the alarms, we was on vessels, so when the alarms went off, it would come on the radio, alarms, gas.
Mm-hmm.
But I just know as time went on, and I don't know why, but I guess it was just assumed that they were false alarms because we just didn't. They weren't quite as serious as they were to begin with. If that makes sense. I can't tell you why. That's all I know.
Now,
that's all I remember.
During the deployment, during the actual combat time, did you notice anything unusual while moving in theater? Some people have reported like encountering dead carcasses and animals along the way. Did you experience any of that?
No, most of the time, like I said, during the actual combat, we were combat logistical support. So we were running. What our mission was the combat power that came in by sea lift. It was our job to get it off of the ships, onto shore, in a ready to fight configuration, so to speak. And that's what we did at the beginning. During the actual fighting, our job was, we would get over the radio to pick up, say, a barge full of Patriot missiles. Patriot missiles were needed at this location, so we would go out to the ships, bring in the barge of Patriot missiles, and take it to either Jebel, Dammam, Khafji, one of those ports, wherever they told us to take it. Same thing with the, for the whatever munitions the Air Force needed, we would just bring in the munitions, the beans and bullets is what we was doing.
Yeah.
And there were periods that I traveled, I were aware of dead camels, but I just don't remember, so I'm not going to go into any more detail.
Now, when you were over there, did you become aware of any kind of health problems? Did you develop any kind of health problems while over there?
No, I remember I had a few episodes of diarrhea, which I just, at the time, I didn't think nothing about it. I just figured that I'd ate something and didn't disagree, or I had a 24-hour bug. I remember that happening once or twice. And then when I got back, same thing, I just kept having little episodes of like a diarrhea, 24-hour bug. And when I knew something was wrong with me was December of 1993. I was being deployed for a one-year tour down in Central America to provide logistics for some road building in some Latin American, Central American countries. The U.S. was building roads in Honduras and El Salvador, and so I was going to deploy down to support that and move construction equipment. And as I was out processing, I went to the dental clinic, and they I just had a adverse reaction to the Novocaine. I'm not allergic to it. They never figured it out. But after that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like I had some kind of bad flu. My joints were hurting. I had diarrhea. Less energetic. After that incident, all I could do was just kind of lay around for 2 or 3 days. And as time went by, it was just, but I was having chest pains, I was having chronic diarrhea. I couldn't even make it into PT formations in the morning. And I kept going in, and basically they said that I was having panic attacks. And this went on for about 10 months. And finally, they sent me to see a psychiatrist. And so I explained to him what was going on. And when it was all over and said, he said that the symptoms I was having was not consistent with a panic disorder or cardiac problems. That there was something medically going on, and the doctors needed to basically do their job and figure out what was causing my symptoms. So after that, they did colonoscopy,
Colonoscopy.
colonoscopy and endoscopy. And they found a hiatal hernia. The sphincter between my esophagus and my stomach was wide open. In other words, the sphincter was pretty well ate away. and irritable bowel syndrome. And then they started giving me medication for the, the GERD and stuff to treat the irritable bowel.
So all of this started occurring even while still on active duty.
Yeah, I was active duty, and my legs were just intermittently going numb, and I'd failed before I went to Saudi running PT, and I just assumed it was from that, and they ended up putting me on a permanent profile for no running. They found some bulged disc in my lower spine, and then my arm started going numb. First it was the right arm, and I went in, and the only thing I remember that they did is maybe an x-ray of my wrist or something, but they said it's carpal tunnel. And like I said, when my left arm was going numb, and I'd go in, I'd complain about, my left arm was going numb, both arms going numb. They never really addressed the left arm, because at that time they was trying to figure out, why I was having all the chest pain, the atypical chest pains, which turned out to be the acid reflux or the GERDs and the hiatal hernia and all that stuff. I was having headaches and all that's in my medical records. And finally, in 1996, I talked to my branch manager and about a possibility of early retirement. The Army was doing a drawdown, and I was concerned because, because of the joint pain. I couldn't even do push-ups and set-ups anymore. I was on a profile for the runnings and riding the bicycle, but I was unable to do the push-ups and set-ups, so I was approved for early retirement.
How did you realize that what you have is Gulf War illness?
I really didn't know. I mean, at first I heard about it and I didn't know what to think, and I mean, my first reaction, I thought it was just, I didn't know what to think, I really didn't give it much consideration. I didn't really believe it at first, but then, like I said, guys that I'm retired, so I was in the military a long time, and I served with other guys that were in for a long time. I knew these guys, and all of a sudden they were getting sick. And I had an NCO. He was a very strong NCO. He was the type of fellow that when it was his turn to do the PT formation, he was like, "Oh my God," because he was going to hurt you. And he got sick, and I watched him go from, physically able to in a wheelchair within an 8-month period. So I knew something was going on, but I thought I had it, but I mean, nobody, no one would say, "Well, you have Gulf War illness." So I just kept going in. This is happening. I'm tired. I'm having diarrhea. I'm going numb. I'm having these weird sensations running through my arms and legs. My muscles hurt. My joints hurting.
No.
And I've never had anybody say you have Gulf War illness. So to this day, I mean, nobody's ever said you have Gulf War illness.
Yeah, no doctor's gonna do that.
Of all the symptoms that the VA has listed now, I've got just about every one of them, with the exception of the menstrual thing.
Give us an idea of how the health issues have progressed over the years.
Okay, like I said, when it first started, after the adverse reaction to the dental care or the Novocaine, the digestive system was pretty severe. I mean, the diarrhea and all that. I had a drop in weight of 30-some pounds and all that. But once they finally started taking me serious and started treating the acid reflux and the diarrhea, I learned to live with it. I learned to cope with it, so to speak. It still affects me to this day. I still have periods where I'll get a cramp, and sometimes I can make it to the bathroom, and sometimes
Not so lucky.
I'm not so lucky. Yeah, it's like kind of like a baby. I've never been correctly potty trained. I still, it's embarrassing, but that's the fact of life.
Yeah.
How that's affected me over the years, I mean, it's affected me in my work. When the IBS was cutting it real bad, you know, my employers thought I was sneaking out for breaks and stuff, but actually I was running back and forth to the bathroom on the bad days, you know. The other symptoms, you know, the joint pain, I mean, it's pretty well been about the same. The weird part is the muscle pain. I mean, at first it's like the muscle pain won't quite that bad, but it's like the muscle pain, the late 90s, it seemed like the muscle pain in my upper body, my arms and all, it just got terrible. I was going in, my arms hurt. I mean, just moving my arms, and they just hurt all the time. And they never really could give me an answer, but December of 2005, well, let me back up on the muscle pain for the arms. I mean, in the late 90s, I noticed I'd be driving to work and just turn the steering wheel, and I get this sharp pain that run down one arm and my right arm.
Yeah.
And the arm would just kind of hang there a day or two. I mean, I could move it, but it hurt so bad I could barely move it. It just kind of just hung there. And that happened 2 or 3 times, and the arms just hurt. I kept going into my doctors, and they really didn't know what to say. And then in 95, I remember I had a family member pass away, and I was, you know, taking care of business, making funeral arrangements and that type of thing. And all of a sudden, my right leg, I got this limp. I mean, this bad limp. I don't remember pain, just limping. And that lasted several days, and then the muscle pain kind of just moved down into the legs as well. And I mean, I've had it ever since, and there's been no relief. To this day, I got it. It's just no relief. And I go to the doctors, and they say it's like fibromyalgia, but it's not, you know, typical classic fibromyalgia. It's atypical. And they tried different medications, Lyrica and some other ones, and nothing seems to work.
So would you say the ailments, as the years have progressed, so have the ailments in intensity and frequency?
Yes, in my case, I keep having, I don't know how to explain it, but you know, when I was going to the doctors, I kept telling them that, you know, about my muscle, my joint pains, and arms going numb. At times it seems like that my leg, especially the right leg, like at times it just didn't follow brain commands. My brain would say, walk here, do this, and my leg would just kind of make weird movements and you know, kind of come and go. But I kept having these flare-ups, where I just get these abnormal sensations going down the leg, and well, both legs, but especially the right leg, and I would just start getting these sharp stabbing pains that would just over and over and over and over and over and over, half an hour, 45 minutes, and then, you know, then I can't walk for 2 or 3 days. I got to use a cane, you know, and I kept telling the doctors, and finally, in 2009, I made an appointment for something else. It was in the morning, and I had one of those flare-ups at night, and I go in to see the doctor, and he says, well, wait a minute, I thought you was here to see me about this. And I says, I am. He says, well, what's wrong with your leg? Why can't you walk? And I said, Doc, I've been telling you this for years. This happens all the time. And he's like, oh my God. And he said, you know, I'm sorry I missed it, but this is classic multiple sclerosis. So he sent me for MRI of the brain, but it did not show the plaques or the lesions. I can't say the other word, the eliminating process. And to this day, he believes that I have some unyet formally recognized disease process that mimics MS. That's his words. And he's put that in writing for me, so.
No.
But throughout the years, I keep going in and asking for another MRI of the brain or the spine to make sure no plaques and lesions are being shown, because my doctor still thinks it's MS. And the last MRI is showing prominent atrophy of my frontal lobes, bifrontal, both frontal lobes, they're shrinking. And the MRI report is saying neurodegenerative disease is suspected.
Now, have you submitted claims with the Veterans Benefit Administration?
Yes.
In relation to your Gulf War illness? In other words, what items have you submitted, and has the VA given you a decision on those items?
Well, when I first got out, I submitted for the irritable bowel syndrome, the hiatal hernia, the corporal, well, not the corporal tunnel, but the back and neck.
Yeah.
And the migraine headaches and all that stuff. It was all in my records, and most of it, they gave me service connected 0%. So that was in like 97. As time went by, and all the other symptoms started affecting me.
Yeah.
In 2006, I lost my job because of the difficulty walking and the IBS and all that. And so I applied again, and they pretty well, they raised it from 20 to 30% because they gave me 10% for my carpal tunnel. Well, the test, which even that was wrong, but they gave me 10% for that, so they raised it to 30. And like I said, I had one of those flare-ups in May of 2012.
But
and
none of the items.
Well, I'm getting that. May of 2012, I had another one of those flare-ups, and you know, I can't explain it, but it's like this one was worse than ever before, because some of the symptoms that you know, like the skin rashes and abnormalities and stuff I never had before. Now I keep getting these rashes all over my body. You know, never had that before until 2012.
So you're having additional.
Yeah, additional. But it's progressively like it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It's scary is what it is. But anyway, I applied, and it seems like I'm at 60% right now. But anything that was in my medical records that maybe they raised compensation on, because basically I pointed out where they overlooked evidence that I already given them.
Correct.
But bottom line, anything in my medical records has been connected, but any presumptive item, no, not yet. The neurological issues and.
So you're
that answers your question.
So you're in the appeal process right now.
No, because that was back in 2006, and I'll be honest with you. At that point in my life, I did not understand the claims
process.
Yeah, I just didn't really understand it. I didn't understand you have to do an appeal and all this. I just kind of, at that point in my life, you know, like I say, I lost my job, and they denied it. So I just figured at that point, the VA was or the government was unwilling to admit to the Gulf War illness thing. So
no, correct.
You know, I had a family to feed, so that was my priority at that time.
So since then, have you done an NOD or appeals or anything like that?
Well, no, like I said, the last claim I did was, I put in 2012. I've still got time left before I put in an appeal. I'm trying to get more additional information, like the MRI that showed the brain atrophy.
Yeah.
I've had a neuropsychological examination that shows cognitive impaired cognitive executive function, resistance to interference. So in other words, if I'm talking to you about something and say the phone rings or I get distracted, I just forget what we was talking about, you know. And
Yeah, I get it.
It showed executive function, the verbal. There's times I'm talking and I just can't find the words no more like I used to, if that makes sense. It's like, you know it, but you just can't say it no more.
Stuck at a certain point of the conversation.
Right, and you know, people look at you and they just assume you're uneducated, and it's not. It's just that you can't find that word. It just, you know, it's happening now. You know what I'm trying to say.
I know.
Okay. So, well, I mean, it is what it is, but because of what the MRIs are now showing, and I'm just waiting to see more doctors that can look at all my MRIs that I've had over the years and compare everything and see if they can find a cause for it, or if it's still an unknown type neurological issue. Then I will. Then I'll appeal when I've got it.
Okay, so when it comes to primary care physicians, the doctors that you see, would you say that they're educated, they are aware, or they understand when the topic of Gulf War illness?
No, absolutely not. What I'm finding is, you know, I'm not saying they're not educated. I mean, they obviously are the doctors. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm finding that you have to pretty well advocate for yourself. You have. Give you an example. I just changed from one VA medical center to another one, so I go to a local CBOT clinic. Mm-hmm. And the reason I did that, the first one, I mean, they actually looked at me and told me, you know, that they didn't believe it. They didn't believe in it. It was on my mind. You know, since I'm so convinced I've got a nerve problem, you need to go see a doctor on the outside, and this, that, and another. And not all, but you got some that really cared, and they knew. Like one doctor I was seeing, I mean, I went in one day and I was having tremors in my arms, and so, I mean, she knew, but and she was trying to help me, but it's like after a while I don't know if I wasn't allowed to see her no more or what happened, but it seemed like every time I went in, I'd see a different doctor every time you go in.
Yeah.
And so I just felt like I wasn't getting the care I needed. And so I transferred from that VA medical center to a different one. And when I walked in and seen the primary care physician, and I told her I have Gulf War illness, and she goes, "What's that?" I mean, she just didn't have a clue. And I mean, she actually went in the back and got this little book from the VA, you know, to look it up. And but as time goes in, and she's starting to see the symptoms I'm having, and she's beginning to take me more seriously. You know, especially with the MRI showing the brain atrophy, you know, that, because it fits the research. And I take, you know, I don't try to overload them, but I'll take them, you know, one little study results, and, you know. And even with my doctor, I mean, you know, and my doctor even admitted this to me, you know, he jokes with me when he sees me coming, he's like, here we go, because I don't fit the typical medical profiles, and treating me is difficult. All he can do is treat my symptoms, but he firmly believes that there's Gulf War illness or some atypical type MS, call it whatever you want, but he realizes that I'm a little different from the average patient, and he admitted, at first he was trying to read everything he can get his hands on and go for illness, but back when he was first treating me, most of the information out there at the time, it was stress related, or it was all in their minds. He didn't know what to think, but as time went on, and he kept seeing the different symptoms, and especially when he'd see me, I'm telling him I had trouble walking sometimes, and then all of a sudden I come in one day and I can't walk. He's like, oh my God. So, he takes me very seriously now, and but on the VA side of the house, for the most part, you have to educate your doctors. That's my personal experience.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that there are some, and that their doctors are great, but, I haven't been that fortunate. And I'm not saying my doctors are bad at all. I'm just saying that, last appointment, my primary care doctor, she was a little behind. I sat out in the waiting room, and I know she's seen an older gentleman, World War II veteran. And I know she saw a Korean War veteran that day, and a Vietnam vet, and me. So she's seeing all these different veterans from all these different eras. And, I guess each had their own specific health issues. So it's got to be difficult for them to know everything. So my suggestion to any Gulf War vet is advocate for yourself and kind of
learn about the
kind of teach your doctor about your specific problems with what the available research we have now.
correct.
So,
And now with the diverse research that has been released, where they're really pinpointing, they're actually able to show physical evidence, like with the study on the mitochondria and on the chromosome, and the fMRIs, where it showed a unusual amount of white mass in the brain. As of right now, exactly, there's not a cure. There's not. They are further researching in proper treatments. One of the things I'm finding is the doctors, even though they're well-intentioned, the only thing they are really only able to help do right now is like treat the symptoms, because there really isn't, there's not a set way to treat the ailment, and
that's what I'm finding, and especially on the civilian side of the house, if you will, my family physician. That's all they can do right now is treat the symptoms,
Yeah.
The blood test shows your vitamin D is down to nothing, or,
And that's something I have noticed with, I constantly hear about how Gulf War veterans suffering Gulf War illness, they're showing a vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah, look at that.
I'm having to take vitamin D supplements. That it's not a cure, but it does provide me a little bit of extra energy to continue on. It fuels the mitochondria of the cell, and it gives you a little bit extra energy to carry on throughout the day.
I found that myself, like I told you earlier, when I had that last flare up, I don't know what to call it other than a flare up. I mean, I used to call it an event, and it's my family physician that got me using the term flare-up. He sees it as a MS-like flare-up, is what he calls it, but I don't know what you call it. But after that last one, I swear I thought I was dying. I mean, the fatigue got so bad. My life has changed. I mean, I'm active, outgoing. I love to work in the yard. I love to do and now I just can't do it. I get so tired all the time. And when the fatigue would hit me, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but you could just feel it coming over you. And it was like, you just, no energy, you just tired. I mean,
totally drained out.
yeah, like I gotta go sit down or I'm gonna pass out. I
Yeah.
mean, and I can't, you can't do anything until it, and you go lay down, and that don't really help. I mean, it has to just kind of go away. It's like every day when you wake up, you've got a battery, and you only get so much energy that day, you know. And once you use that energy, that's it, you're done. And you know, I still like to get out and try to do things. You know, I got habits. I like to garden, but if we get out and do something like physical, you know,
Yeah.
it takes me a couple days just to get over it. It's like I'm just
You drain out.
tired.
You drain out
Yeah, and I hurt.
Quickly. You drain
Yes.
fit.
Things that I used to be able to do in say 2 or 3 hours. Like this past winter, you know, we had a bad snowstorm and it broke a tree out of the yard. And in the past, you know, it's something like that. I take a chainsaw out there and clean it up in 3 or 4 hours. Now it takes me 3 or 4 weeks to do what I used to be able to do in 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
I can't do stuff anymore. I just get too tired too quick, and then I have to rest, you know, in between. And that's the only way I know how to explain it, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes sense. No.
I'm so less active. I'm gaining weight. The doctor said you need to lose weight, but yeah, I wish I could get out and exercise, you know.
One thing I have experienced, one of the things I experience is mental cognitive dysfunction, and we get that a lot throughout the entire day. I mean, it's 24/7. However, it seems like I go through these cycles where I'm just totally loopy. The brain is just not working whatsoever, and
Right.
I mean, it's like a cycle pattern, you know.
Well, where I notice it for me personally is the fatigue periods when I was talking about, especially with the bad fatigue, like it just comes over you. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, just say somebody stuck a straw down your neck and it sucked every bit of the energy out of your body, and it's like you can't think straight.
Yeah.
I mean, you're mentally tired, you're physically tired, and that's how it affects me.
Yeah, you just pretty much want to lay on the floor, plop out, and call it good.
When I get like that, you know, because I like to you know, write or something like that, and I just find myself where I just can't think. I gotta stop until it wears off, but that's the way it affects me. And the cognitive that I'm noticing is just like the test showed. What the problems that I have with it is if I'm talking to you and I'm having a conversation with you, and you know, something happens, a phone rings, or you know, just any little thing to make me look away, I lose my train of thought of, okay, where was I at? What was we talking about? You know?
Mm.
And then finding the right words, you know. I get to a point where I'm having a conversation. We go on.
You know the
There we
word you want to say, but it gets like stuck.
Yeah, it's like I run into these stupid periods. I'm having an intelligent conversation. You know, the conversation is interesting, and all of a sudden it's like my brain just kind of switch turns, and I can't find the words, and I look like this person who's never had, you know, an elementary education. I've got to use baby words because I can't think. I mean,
I know.
I don't know how else to say that. I mean, it's like,
I know.
I don't know. I don't know how to
No, you're fine, Mike. I know.
all I can do is laugh at it. I have to laugh at myself.
Well, we have to laugh at ourselves. I mean, we understand each other, you know, and unless somebody is going through this, it's very difficult to try to educate the public or somebody that's not going through this, you know, for them to understand what we're having to deal with on a daily basis.
You know, it's quite apparent that the brain has been damaged.
Yeah.
And, you know, and for me, I find it quite worrisome that the mind, I mean, it's to the point now it's showing up on a regular MRI, not a functional MRI, but a regular MRI. So we just have to wait and see.
We'll go ahead and close. Anything you would like to add on?
No, with the exception of I think all the research here lately, I've been volunteering. You know, there's been a lot of studies, either the CDMRP or the VA, and so I've been volunteering for studies that number one, because I want to understand what I'm going through. You know, so I guess in a way I'm selfish. I'm doing it for myself, but then again, I'm doing it because, you know, I'm hoping that eventually it will help someone. You know, unless there's a miracle, I personally don't believe it's going to help me. I think it's too late for us. But I do believe that with the research that is going on right now, I think it's very important that they continue the funding for the research and they continue this funding and find out exactly what it is that has damaged our minds and our nervous system and our DNA and everything else, because you know, you take some of these neurological diseases such as ALS, MS, Parkinson's. This country's been looking for an answer for those for years, and I think the research is starting to get close, and hopefully, you know, unfortunately the Gulf War veterans offered them a unique area to study that could possibly down the road, you know, find that tad bit of information they need to put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
To maybe find effective treatments or better yet cures for some of these neurological diseases. So I'm adamant about that. I think that's very important.
Well, and with the VBA, one thing I am finding with everything that I have been researching, it appears that they're looking, when it comes to Gulf War illness, they don't want to claim it because of the fact that they're looking at the dollar value amount. If they approve claims for the presumptive conditions such as fibromyalgia, IBS, related to Gulf War illness, they're seeing it as the dollar amount that they're going to have to pay out. As towards one thing I've been learning from myself and many other Gulf War veterans is for many of us, the damage is so far gone because of the fact that the VA blocked this for over 23 years. 23 years they blocked the reality of Gulf War illness. So that's 23 years of damage to us. Had they done it earlier, we would have been much further in the game plan. What we're looking at now is, okay, we are too far gone. However, we are hoping that they will come up with better treatments, for better medications for treatment to make our life more tolerable, more humane. It is the morally and humane thing to do. We are not, it's not the money we are, they're acting like we're sitting out on the line saying, gimme, 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 gimme. But what I'm getting on the feedback from every single veteran I've talked to is we want a quality of life. We want to be able to take medication that will make us more functional, less dependent, and possibly even for many of us get back into the workforce.
I tell you, I heard what you just said, and I agree on a lot of it. There's some items I disagree. I mean, here's my perception. I believed in this country, and I still do. But I was, when I got sick, it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about disability. I just wanted to know what was wrong. I mean, I was looking for help. I wanted to keep my job to begin with. That was when I really started going back to VA, and that's all I was asking. And to be treated like I've got these mental deficiencies because I'm sick. Even in the Army, before the doctors even looked at me seriously and did one test, I had to have a psychiatrist to say, it's not in the guy's brain, there's something physically going on, you guys need to do your job and figure it out. That's when they found the IBS and the hiatal hernia. I was disappointed by that because, I just can't believe that this country, and what was it, Desert Storm, 750,000 troops?
Yeah.
And then when a third of them got sick, all of a sudden the Army, or the armed forces, by accident enlisted, all of these people with mental deficiencies. I found that hard to swallow. But looking back at, say, the Vietnam vets, I guess we should have expected it. And that's a shame. I think there's so much partisan politics right now. The leaders of this country can say that they really care about veterans, but they're not showing it.
Yeah.
And like I say, for me, it's not about the disability. I mean, what it is for me is, I know this is cutting my life short, and it's about my family when I'm gone. That's what it's about for me.
Yeah.
It's about my family when I'm gone.
Well, and
so they get something to, because when I got sick and I don't have a savings anymore. I mean, my retirement is gone, trying to survive and do what I've done throughout the years.
exactly.
Why I'm looking for answers that I'm still looking for 23 years later.
Well, and you look at like with Vietnam vets when they came down with Agent Orange.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand the science takes time, but
the denial, the whole
denial
denial process.
Right. I mean, it's just veterans have a saying of, and I forget exactly how it goes. Here goes the brain fog again, but denied, delay, wait till we die.
Yeah.
And there's a reason veterans say that, because, I mean, it's just a perception on their part, but it certainly seems that way. I know a Vietnam veteran. Now, Vietnam ended in what, the early 70s? I don't remember the exact year, but I remember it was 72, 73, somewhere in that time frame.
I don't remember offhand.
Okay, there was a young man from this town that went to Vietnam, and his helicopter got shot down, and his leg was totally crushed. And his leg, to this day, that one leg bends like this.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been on crutches or a walker his whole entire life. And he just recently got his disability to 100%. And it's been what? How many years have it been now?
Oh gosh.
Why does it take that long?
Well, you would think.
You know, he went over as a 19-year-old. His injury wasn't like Ayers, where it's in the brains and they can't see it. His was physical, you could see it. Why does it take that long to give that veteran the benefits he deserves? That's my issue.
Well, you also think
it is it's got to be political. I mean, it's.
You also think with Vietnam, with Agent Orange, where they finally admitted that it is a real health issue. You would think that with Desert Storm, veterans from Desert Storm, when it comes to Gulf War illness, that they wouldn't repeat history, and they would not, they learned their lesson. Hey, oops, we're not going to do this again. We're not going to treat our veterans like that. And what I'm finding is this has turned out into another Agent Orange Part 2. It's the same history,
exactly
same pattern.
It goes further than that. I mean, I love this country, don't take me wrong, but it goes further than that. You would think after the atomic age and some of the, I would expect to hear that Hitler experimented on his soldiers.
No.
But I was really disappointed to find out. I was young, dumb, and naive, and some of the pills they gave us, to find out later that they really wasn't approved. It was, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not experimental, but it was investigational drugs.
Well,
I was really disappointed. I'm still disappointed by that.
Well, we were all disappointed, and it really hits us hard because of the fact that when I joined the military, I
was naive. I trusted it. I didn't think our government would do stuff like that.
Yeah, we always trust the government. We're willing to die for our country. We're willing to serve. Yeah, I understand. We're willing to serve our country. We were willing to die for our country.
Right.
And we trusted those in charge, our government. We trusted that they would have their best interests for those that were willing to sacrifice their life for the good of the country. So in other words, we did our part in doing what we were asked to do as soldiers. We went off to war, we did our part, and we trusted the government to, okay, if I go to war, if I come back broken, if I have limbs blown up or whatever, the government, the VA, the VA is going to be there for me to take care of me because of what I've done. And what we're finding is that's,
nobody's asking them to take care of me. All they're asking for is, look, I served, and I'm unable to compete and our economic process like I would have been if it wasn't for this illness or this injury. And all we're asking for is to be compensated for that. I mean, that's something we earned that. I mean, we're not asking for a handout.
Yeah.
And I just, in the end, is in my way of thinking. I don't know, but I just think. I remember when I was a young man. Well, I'll go back. Let's say my father and my grandfather's time. It seems like a politician didn't have to be a rich man to get to office. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But nowadays, it just seems like to me, it just seems like, it seems like the politics are driven by the big money, and it's not so much about the people anymore. I think our founders would turn over in their grave. I mean,
All right.
But I do know one thing. I know Gulf War illness is real. It's debilitating, and it angers me. It angers me when,
the Veterans Administration
I hear it.
decides.
A friend of mine, he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life,
Yeah.
because his lungs filled with blood, and the treatment to save his life, even though he still needs assistance breathing, the medication they had him on was so strong it harmed the bones, and they can't fix that. So he's in a wheelchair the rest of his life. The veterans that I hear out here are scared to death. They don't have, they haven't got the benefits yet. They can't, winter, it's cold winter coming in. They don't have money for heating oil. For the veteran, that he's getting some disability, $480 a month, and he don't have groceries. That angers me.
Yeah.
That angers me. The benefit process is complicated. I mean, I understand. I mean, unfortunately, we live in an era where a lot of people. When I grew up, I believe you went out, you worked, and you earned what you got.
Yeah.
And we live in a country now where, unfortunately, there are those that would be quite satisfied to take a handout. And I understand that the VA has to make sure that the claims are legit. But with the Gulf War vets, it just seems like that even though the presumptive illnesses are on the books, they've had a no service connection. Well, wait a minute, it's presumptive. So that tells me that
It's a deliberate.
it hasn't been. Yeah, it's either deliberate or the VA. They've been hiring so many new raiders because of the backlog things that the raiders aren't properly trained. It's just like the doctor I was telling you about. The poor woman, she's a World War II vet, a Korea vet, a Vietnam vet, and a Desert Storm vet. Mm-hmm. I mean, you get all these different veterans from different eras. That's a lot for any one person to know. And I think with the BVA, if I'm saying that correctly, the veterans, the disability side of the house, the claim side of the house, and instead of expect, all the raiders to know all eras, maybe, somebody in leadership in the VA should realize this is a problem. And, if I was a manager, this is the way I'd fix it, okay? I'd have a team for raiders that were highly trained for this era of veteran. All the Agent Orange veterans, that their claims go to these folks. They're trained in it. All the Desert Storm or the Gulf War, Gulf War illness, whatever you want to call it, they go to these raiders. They're specifically trained for that type of claim.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see that being done in the VA, and that's why. I guess that's why veterans are angry. They're seeing fellow veterans doing without food on the table, and we're helping each other. Here we are, trying to pull together, and okay, this veteran really needs some heating oil, or this one needs some groceries, and it's us helping each other right now. And And I think if the VA wanted to fix that, it's easy to fix. All somebody got to do is just manage it.
Yeah.
You know.
And most of the education, when it comes to education, educating veterans on Gulf War illness, it is other Gulf War veterans educating each other. Unfortunately, you know, the VBA is now stepping into that play and educating the veteran himself. It's the veteran who's having to be
exactly
pulling together, educating each other on the process, how to submit the proper claims, how to properly process claims,
right.
how to work the claims, how to appeal the claims, etc.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's like you say, you make a good point. I mean, I was lucky that, you know, on the social media, I found some of the information that I found by accident. And I'm like, wait a minute, I knew that. There has to be more folks like me that are having these problems. And then when I found this social media outlet and found the Gulf War pages, and it's like, wow, you know, and all the information. It's like, I never knew about the specialty clinics, the War-Related Illness and Injury Study Center.
Exactly.
Well, my primary cares don't know about it, so how was I supposed to learn? And I learned from the other veterans. And so here we are as a sick veteran going back to our primary care and saying, you know, I just learned something. Have you ever heard of the War-Related Illness and Injury Study Center? And the primary care is like, no, what's that? And I'm like, it's a place for veterans just like me, where they can go in and they are up to date on the research, and they can assess my conditions and help you treat me.
Correct.
The primary cares don't know. And that's another failure in the VA's part.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, you know. We're having to educate each other and educate our primary care. And that's another.
The sad part about that is the fact that we're the ones that have the mental cognitive disorder. We're the ones that have the brain fog.
Right.
And it's extremely hard being able to pull together like this, educate each other and educate the
right.
physicians, the specialists, and become our own advocates when our own brains are not even working to full capacity.
I know, because I found myself, you know, okay, what's it called again? You know, and I have to go back and ask questions. I know I've seen it, and I know, but I don't understand it. Tell me again, tell me again, tell me again. And then, you know, eventually I find a link to the War-Related Illness Injury, and I go in, I read about it, and I print it off, and I take it to my doctor. Hey, you know about this? Never heard of it.
Yeah.
But this is a place for somebody like me where they can figure out, you know, I'm still looking for answers. 23 years later, I'm still looking for an answer.
Yeah.
And I'm not finding answers. You know, and I think that sums it up. That's where we stand right now. So I think the opportunities are there. I know there are many veterans that would like to take part in the research, but we're learning about the research from each other. And part of the problem I'm seeing through the research is you know, I think a lot of veterans would want to take part of it, but the funding and the lodging and all that's not part of the funding. So, you know, here's a veteran's like, man, I would really like to do this research, but, you know, I need to buy groceries. And guess what? You know, unfortunately, you know, that's something else that needs to be corrected. You know, and that's just my opinion, and for what it's worth. And we're done here. Thank y'all.